Men who have been sexually assaulted by a woman, what's your story? Freshly turned 21 was at the bar with a couple buddies playing pool having a beer. This really haggard-looking older woman comes up behind me. I still wore baggy jeans at the time. She slid her hand down the back of my pants and grabbed me ass. I turned my head to have her screech in my ear loudly, "Your mama raised you right, I bet I could show you the time of your life." The entire bar just stared at us. I just laughed it off and she walked away. Buddies thought it was creepy as hell, lucky they don't give me shit for it. If an old man approached a young woman at the bar and stuck his hand down her pants, he'd be arrested. I was 10 and she was 16. My first cousin, who would invite me over to hang out constantly, went on for years. I didn't know it counted as assault until years later because she was a woman. A lot of my anxiety issues are rooted back to her. She is still one of the most loved family members even after everyone found out the truth, and is why I no longer attend family gatherings to this day. People constantly blame me and say it's my fault our family has tension because I won't be nice to her or forgive her or just try to get along. I was around with a girl I trusted very much. I have a foot fetish and she indulged it from time to time. So when she begged me to try out some of her kinks, I agreed. She said she wanted to try out bondage and I reluctantly agreed. So I let her bond my wrists and legs. Well, once I was tied up, there really wasn't anything I could do to fight back. That night was horrible. I was beat, raped, humiliated, and so much more I don't feel comfortable discussing on a Reddit thread. It went on until I passed out and woke up the next morning. There was no sign of her and I pondered if it was just a nightmare, until I saw the marks from struggling against the ropes. It gave me major PTSD and I basically had decided that I was never going to get sexual with a girl again. But my current girlfriend has been slowly working with me to help me out. I hopefully will be able to get into bed with her without having a panic attack. No one will probably see this in the sea of comments, but for those who do, this felt good to finally get out there. I am finally done letting her haunt me and ruining my future love endeavors. I was at a bar and this woman I knew from college grabbed my dick while I was dancing with my girlfriend. Then the next day she messaged me on Facebook and I told her my girlfriend was pissed she did that. She said sorry and that she gets handsy when she is drunk. Fast forward 3 years and she is on the front lines of the Me Too movement, demonizing men and their terrible ways. I wanted to post a screenshot of our conversation to one of her Me Too posts, but I didn't want to be a dick. It's not being a dick. You know she should do the same to you in his heartbeat. There was a freshman girl who followed me around everywhere when I was a junior in college. Party at the apartment I share with 3 friends. I get incredibly sloshed and put myself to bed. She shows up really late, sober as can be, and marches right back to my room. My friends thought I made a booty call. I'm just barely conscious. She gets my pants off and blows me until I have an erection. She rides me, while I'm doing absolutely nothing, until I get off. Inside her. She stayed and the next morning I paid for Plan B with most of what was in my bank account at the time. Rapes you and makes you pay for the Plan B. Now that's a monster. I doubt this will be as bad as some of the incoming stories, but I'll share anyway. I wasn't assaulted, but I was in a situation that made me a little uncomfortable. I went to a birthday party of a girl I went to high school with, so naturally plenty of from high school would be there. This was about 4 years after graduating. One girl in attendance was someone I used to have a bit of a crush on, so being a little more confident than I was in high school, I start talking to her and we're hitting it off. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom, and while I'm waiting I notice she has followed me. She walks into the bathroom with me and we start making out. Being a little drunk, I'm pretty into it. We're all over each other, so we get away from the party and take a walk down the road to a park where we end up having sex. We walk back to the party and rejoin the group. I'm trying to act all cool as if nothing happened, but she has her arms around me, which is fine, but it kind of felt like we were a couple in a weird way. This is where it starts getting a little weird. I'm standing in a circle with my friends and people from high school that I haven't seen in years. She starts rubbing my penis in front of everyone. I take her hand away from my crotch, but she immediately tries to grab me again. Eventually she just puts her entire hand down my pants and tries to give me a hand job. Again right in front of everybody who can clearly see what is going on and all look very uncomfortable. We're both pretty drunk but I have enough sense to try and save her from really embarrassing herself, so I remove the both of us from the backyard where the majority of the party is and take her to the front yard. She keeps trying to entice me to have sex with her again right there on the front yard by taking her shirt off and exposing her breasts to me while there are people entering and exiting the party, many of which are parents. Every time I get her shirt back on she just tries to show me her breasts again. They were amazing but that just wasn't the time to be showing them off. She keeps saying let's come on let's but I said no over and over again but she wasn't having any of it. If it were me doing even half the shit she was doing, I would have probably been arrested. If it were me I probably would have been arrested. Not probably, definitely. When I was a kid and one doctor jerked me off to check up on my health, it never bothered me until I got new doctor. I hate doctors now. I was 20, drinking my face off at a summer party with a bunch of my friends, when a girl who I had a sexual history with and trusted very much at the time decided that I needed a bit more to drink even when things were winding down. Fed me liquor until I was really too up to do anything. Then she helped me into the bathroom because I wasn't feeling so good, where she proceeded to cover my entire face and neck with lipstick marks. Earlier in the night she had been making jokes about trying to get with me, but I'd brushed them off and said sorry, no, not gonna happen. I've got a girlfriend now, that kind of thing, to try and keep her at arm's length. I made the mistake of drinking too much, and as soon as she'd gotten me alone in the bathroom I was pretty well done for. Woke up around 5 AM next to her, both of us naked, in a mutual friend of ours' bed, got dressed, ran home and immediately blocked out anything and everything I could about the event. Lived in blissful ignorance of what actually happened to me until 4 or 5 days later when one of my friends brought up that I was most definitely sexually assaulted. Shocked me and hurt me to my core, but I genuinely don't remember anything about what happened after she took me into the bathroom. And a few days later she started saying shit to her friends and people she knew that I'd taken advantage of her while she was drunk that night. The only thing that stopped a mob from trying to beat my ass was a picture my friend had the foresight to snap. Me, very obviously code on the bed, pants off, shirt still on, and her, looking right at the camera and covering herself up. Friend did great taking that picture. I had someone grope me when they thought I was drunk and passed out on a bed at university. I whispered baddie, no, and they seemed too guilty to continue after that. Get ready to say WTF. When I was 12, my uncle's wife would have her way with me when he would leave for work. It happened maybe 7 or 8 times. She had seen a glimpse of me on accident while I was changing into swim shorts, ready and get herself off. She kept asking my guardian's different uncle and aunt if it was okay for me to come stay during the summer. I didn't know how to say I didn't want to go without revealing what was happening. Since my parents passed away when I was 7, I was always afraid of making a mistake and getting kicked out of my house. I was never adopted, so they could collect a check from the state and release me into foster care whenever they were tired of me. I came up with the idea to get one of my cousins to come with me, and when he said he didn't really want to, I revealed to him why. I was hoping if he was with me when I stayed over she wouldn't come get me in the middle of the night. She did anyways, and while we were in her room, my uncle I never knew had always been watching from outside runs into the room and says that he saw my cousin peeking through the door. I'm looking at my uncle not sure how to react because I've technically been banging his wife. He went to check and see if my cousin was asleep and then told me to get to bed. A couple days passed and my uncle and I were wrestling after he had a little too much to drink and got really rough with me. He slid my face across the ground with my arms behind my back as revenge for pinning him. This I figured was the perfect excuse to never have to come back to visit. I ran away and called my guardians to come get me and explained what happened. Here's what's really WTF. I was 12 at that time. The secret came out when I was 15 to my entire family. Typical Hispanic family with lots of extended relatives. The way it came out was one of my older cousins heard about it and asked if it was true, and I told him the truth. He said that my aunt used to do the same thing to him, and so he felt compelled to say something to my guardians. Remember, I am a ward of the state. A full-on investigation took place once my uncle, guardian, reported the incident to my social worker. I had to tell my story 5 different times. My uncle when he asked for the truth. Social worker. The police. My state-appointed therapist. Attorney. I was ashamed and humiliated every time. Even worse. Most of my family didn't believe me because I didn't report it right away. And since it was after the altercation with my uncle, the excuse I used to not have to visit anymore, my family thought it was some sort of revenge. During the investigation, the police found hundreds of pornographic home videos, swinging videos and other kinky smut. My aunt and uncle had their kids taken away for a short period, and I took the blame for that as well. By the time I was 16, I had already been kicked out of my relative's house and was in a foster home. Didn't mind much because strangers treated me better than my family, who resented me for what happened. Because of this, I shied away from women in junior high and high school. Went through my teenage years concealing my severe anxiety around women. It's really sad when I think back on it. Not because of what I went through. I'm fine. Received a scholarship for college, and after graduating worked for a badass software tech startup. I have a girlfriend and a wonderful Doberman. Days like anyone else, I'm sure. I just wonder how many other foster youth in the system are taken advantage of and don't say anything for fear of what might happen. My supervisor continuously asked me on a date and I declined because I was busy. So she scheduled me off, came over to my house and told me I had no excuse. She paid for everything and I denied sex at the end of the night. I got fired the next day for something unrelated. Nobody believed me and I had to find a new job. It happened a few times when I was in my party days. I'd get sloshed somewhere, find a nice quiet place to crash out, and wake up with a female friend on top of me trying to get things going. One particularly persistent incident sent me hiding under a pool table because in my drunk mind I was pretty sure there wasn't enough clearance for her to try again. I'm about 95% sure drunk me was right. I stumbled home drunk from a college party and passed out in my dorm room. Woke up to her riding me after she climbed in the window. That's some crazy. I've been grabbed by so many old ladies at work, it's ridiculous. After the first couple it's halfway expected, so you get good at dodging it. But there's no one that'll take a complaint from a guy against an old lady seriously. I was about 6 years old, living in Colorado. My sister had a sleepover at our house, with 2 of her friends. I woke up before everyone like I always did. My morning ritual was sneaking 2 Oreos out of the cookie jar and then watching mid-90s MTV on the floor with a blanket. My sister's 2 friends wake up shortly after. Both of them are about 3 or 4 years older than me. All I really remember is them trying to have sex with me, too scared and confused to make them stop. We were in the living room, under the blanket while this all happened. The only reason it came to a stop was the sound of my father clearing his throat.